The life of 30-year-old Olivia, a university teacher, was boring and monotonous. It was the same day after day: classes, restless students, home, cooking, and a husband who spent all his time with his music band. She was tired of the monotony and often wanted to change something or at least go on a trip. But her salary wasn't that high and the bills were mostly paid by herself. James, her husband of 40 years, didn't bring much income into the family. He was constantly working on new songs, but there was no promotion or popularity for the band, and all they got was gigs in cheap clubs. Olivia put up with the situation for a long time, because they loved each other since high school, and she was satisfied with everything. But as the years went by, her patience with the monotony gave up on her. Olivia wanted to refresh her feelings and impressions. She went to one of the websites that advertised cheap and comfortable travel and began flipping through the pages one by one, looking for a suitable option. Olivia spent another evening on the computer, dreaming of a trip that would diversify her life. She found an interesting tour to South America that looked attractive and affordable. It was an opportunity to combine traveling and a break from the daily routine. Olivia decided to boldly propose the idea to her husband. She knew that James didn't like adventures and new places; he was too absorbed in his music. "James, I want to show you something." She brought the laptop over to the bed where her husband lay after a tiring rehearsal. "Here, look." She started flipping through the pictures. "We can go on vacation." James rubbed his eyes and looked at the screen. "So, you want me to quit the band? We're about to have a hit. And you want to get in the way of that?" Sometimes Olivia thought James loved music more than he loved her. "Oh, come on. It was just a suggestion. You know, I'm sick of taking lessons every day. I need a vacation. What do you want me to do?" Olivia looked at her husband, who clearly didn't want to leave her favorite pastime, but the desire to diversify her life was so great that she decided to do without him. "How do you envision this?" James was a little perturbed by such a suggestion. "How? Like this? If you don't want to, I can go alone, or I can talk to Charlotte. She hasn't vacationed anywhere in a while either." James, of course, didn't like the idea. He was jealous by nature and didn't want to let his beautiful wife go. But he didn't want to start a music business either. He promised to think about his wife's proposal, and she, in turn, gave her word to persuade her colleague to go with her if James still did not agree to the trip. A couple days later, Olivia arrived at the venue where James' band was playing. She took a seat at a table, and while she waited for the show to end, she ordered herself a martini and relaxed in the club atmosphere. James was the lead singer and was now playing a jazz-style song with his soft baritone. After a while, the musicians finished and turned on a recording of popular music. James sat down at the table with his wife. "What did you think?" "It was one of the new songs." He bragged and put the glass of beer he had brought with him on the table. "It sounded really good. I liked it." She took his hand. "You were great, as always." James looked at her, leaned over and kissed her. He liked the praise. He liked the praise, and he liked his latest masterpiece. They sat like that for a while, talking about music, fans, and the future success of his band. Olivia decided to ask him a question that was important to her. James thought for a moment, going over his options in his mind, and soon answered. "What about your friend? Have you talked to her?" He brought his hand up to his face, stroking his goatee. "Yes. She's just thrilled with the idea. And I've already talked to the director. He's promised to give us a vacation. So it's up to you, darling. I still want to go. Do you? Will you come with me? I'd love to spend a vacation with you. I've thought about it. But I've got a lot on my plate and I'm starting to get lucky with gigs now. I met a producer recently and he promised to think about a contract with my band. Then I'll go with Charlotte. You don't mind, do you? I don't mind. But I understand your feelings and I can see that you need to leave. You can leave, but it won't last, right? Isn't it? No. Just for a week. Olivia was glad he agreed, but whether it was the fact that the trip would happen or the fact that James wouldn't go with her, Olivia didn't know yet. Promise that we'll call each other every day. He kissed the top of her head. When's the flight out? Next Monday. I have to book the tickets now. I want a vacation there before the rainy season. Let's go. Let's go home and celebrate your future vacation. They left the club. James politely opened the door of his convertible to make it easier for his wife to get in, and drove home along the brightly lit, nearly empty road. The days until their desired departure stretched unrealistically slow. Olivia and Charlotte had scoured the internet looking for hotels and had chosen one that was inexpensive but had a good view and plenty of services. They waited impatiently for their flight. Finally that day came. They went to the airport, full of anticipation and excitement. The plane took off and the girls felt the ground was left behind. Olivia was on an airplane for the first time in her life. She was even a little scared, her breathing quickened. It's normal. Her friend calmed her down. It was my first time on an airplane, too. Don't worry. Airplanes are statistically the safest form of transportation. A stewardess who was passing by, performing her duties, offered drinks to the passengers. When it was the girls' turn, they ordered champagne. The drinks soon arrived. Olivia, after a slight daze, began to calm down little by little and decided to enjoy the flight, looking out the window at the sky and the plain below. Soon she fell asleep. She dreamed that the airplane they were flying was experiencing severe turbulence that was only getting worse with time, and that the sky outside the window was darkening dramatically. From the microphone came the voice of the captain, who was trying to calm the passengers. But the shaking didn't stop. Suddenly Olivia saw through the porthole that thick black smoke was billowing from one of the engines. The plane began to dive sharply down a steep cliff. Olivia jumped up, her heart racing. When she looked around, she realized it was just a dream. She wanted to share it with her friend, but she had already pulled her mask over her eyes and was quietly snoring. Arriving in another country, Olivia and Charlotte encountered intrusive cab drivers offering their services. The girls were cautious and decided to find a reliable cab to get to the hotel. They soon found a good-natured driver who took them safely to their destination. The hotel turned out to be a lovely place with a beautiful view of the ocean. The room had everything they needed to make them feel comfortable and relaxed after the long flight. The hotel was close to the beach, which beckoned with its beauty and the opportunity to spend time outdoors. Olivia and Charlotte didn't miss the opportunity to immerse themselves in the beach vacation atmosphere. They went to the shore where, surrounded by bright sunshine, white sand, and the pleasant sound of the waves, they became curious and decided to take a walk along the coast. It's so nice here. Olivia marveled. Look at it, the ocean, nature, clean air. It's beautiful. Yeah. I'm really glad you talked me into coming with you. Look, the guys here are cute, too. Charlotte pointed to the two tanned, muscular, handsome lifeguards on watch. You're right. I'd like to forget about being married. Let's get to know each other. In case they're lonely. Charlotte was single and fun-loving. She invited Olivia to clubs in New York, but she often declined, citing her marriage. But James wasn't here, and Olivia decided it wouldn't hurt to surround herself with male attention. The girls approached the guys, who were doing their duties, keeping order on the beach. Hello. Charlotte said hello first. It's our first time here, maybe you can tell us about the rules of behavior. She wasn't hiding her flirtation. The guys proved to be quite relaxed and talkative, and they quickly struck up a conversation. They talked for a while, the lifeguards told them about the local attractions, and a date was arranged for the evening. Here on the beach, there were parties with drinking and dancing in the evenings. The girls were having a lot of fun. Olivia called her husband from time to time, telling him that the nature here was wonderful and a good place for a vacation. For natural reasons, she did not admit to making new acquaintances. The girls spent their days lying on the beach or exploring the streets of the nearby town, and every evening they went for walks with their boyfriends. Olivia and Lucas, that was her beau's name, were having a torrid affair. She hadn't expected it of herself, but she was enjoying it. She felt a rush of emotions mixed with a rush of adrenaline, feeling somewhat embarrassed and excited about her new romance at the same time. She couldn't help but admit that she was having a great time in Lucas's company. He was a fun and attractive young man who made her happy and let her forget her problems and worries. But she realized that the relationship with him couldn't last forever. After all, she was married. But the time spent on the beach with new friends gave her the opportunity to reconsider her views on ordinary life. Charlotte also had fun in Daniel's company and enjoyed beach parties. He turned out to be a passionate dancer and had an infectious humor. He and Charlotte spent their evenings laughing, dancing, and enjoying the moment. These new acquaintances added brightness and adventure to the girls' lives. One day, when Olivia was walking with Lucas on the beach and they were admiring the sunset, the waves caressing the sandy shore and a light breeze rustling Olivia's hair, in that moment she realized that her heart was torn between the life she knew and the life she dreamed of. The return to reality wasn't easy. Olivia and Charlotte finished their vacation and returned to New York City. Life was once again gray and predictable, but Olivia's heart remained there on the sunny beach. She realized this when James came home, tipsy as usual, and began demanding that Olivia fulfill her marital duty. "Listen to me. I can't. Let's not do this tonight. I'm not feeling very well," she began. James frowned and let go of Olivia's hand that he had been squeezing before. He looked at her perplexed. "What's wrong? Or don't you want to be with me anymore?" he asked with a touch of resentment in his voice. Olivia felt guilty. She knew that she couldn't go on living like before, after all the emotions and adventures she'd had during the vacation. Time passed, but Olivia couldn't forget those feelings. Sometimes she wished she could go back. As time went on, her relationship with her husband began to cool. James noticed this. He saw that his wife wasn't the same and he resented it. He tried to talk to her, but she was always evasive. It was like she was purposely stalling to sort out her feelings. Then one day she received a text message. Olivia looked at her phone and couldn't believe her eyes. Lucas had texted her, "I think about you a lot. I can't forget. I'd like to meet you again." Those words burned her to the core. She felt an irresistible desire to see this tanned guy. She wanted the thrill again. But how to arrange it, she had no idea. That evening, as the couple reconvened at the dinner table, Olivia decided to strike up a conversation. "Listen, James. We need to have a serious talk." She tried to remain calm. "I've been very happy with you all these years and I'm grateful for all the time you've given me." She thought for a moment. But James was wary. "You know, our relationship has been getting colder. I've noticed that we've been going our separate ways for a while now. Our feelings, they..." "What?" James interrupted. "What are you saying? What are you implying?" Honey, you have to understand. I can't go on like this. You're living your music, and It's not my life. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. James frowned even harder. He hadn't expected such words from Olivia. There was silence for a while before he spoke. I don't understand. You want a divorce now? After all these years of marriage? He jumped up angrily from his chair. You've changed a lot since that trip. What happened there? Did you find a boyfriend there? He walked over to her and grabbed her hand, squeezing her fingers as painfully as if she were in a vice. Olivia cringed, her face contorted in pain. Let go, you're hurting me. She screamed shrilly. Her husband was jealous, but she hadn't expected him to react so violently, from a gentle, caring husband to an angry and bitter one in the blink of an eye. But James wouldn't let her go and shook her by the arm, continuing to question her about the reasons for her behavior. The answer. Are you seeing someone? He yanked her from the table with force and pushed her aside. Speak. Olivia realized that now was the most difficult moment. She needed to set things straight. But fear of the possible consequences crept under her skin and flowed through her veins. She plucked up the courage to tell him that she'd met another man she'd fallen in love with, and now she just couldn't be with James anymore. James froze at first, as if digesting the information, which made Olivia's veins freeze even more. But then his rage reached a climax. He started yelling at his wife, calling her names and hitting her. Olivia tried to dodge, apologized to her husband, and begged him to let her go. But he did not give in to her pleas. James became ruthless. He continued to beat Olivia until she lost consciousness. Only after that did he let her go a little. He stood over her and watched for a while and then left her lying on the floor and left the house. Several days passed. James wasn't home. He was out with his band, who liked to party after rehearsals. Olivia tried to call him, but he didn't answer. She also decided to keep texting Lucas. She hoped that things would work out with him, since they had been so happy at the beach. They had even arranged for him to fly to New York to see her. He'd wanted to visit the big city himself, and now he had a good reason. Soon he made his visit to America and they met. Olivia carefully tried to hide her bruises under makeup, but it did little good. And when Lucas began to ask what had happened to her, she replied that they were marks from her husband. And how disappointed she was when Lucas told her he could no longer date her because he didn't know she was married. And his religious views forbade him from such a relationship. In the end, he just wished her luck and went back to his place. And Olivia was left with a broken home.